Hello everyone, my name is Fahir Han and I'm here with my co-founder, Dr. Maria Vigliotti. We are Fidata and our mission is to accelerate net zero with accurate data. We all know the world needs to get to net zero by 2050. Corporations and governments need to invest in energy efficient buildings, in renewable energy generation, turn to green transportation, conserve water, and nurture biodiversity. The amount of investment required is immense. It's $275 trillion. Investment managers with over 100 trillion under management are the primary source of capital for these investments. And they are willing and also required to direct more capital towards net zero. There's growing demand from their own clients, and there's regulatory pressure on them, like the SFDR and EU taxonomy regulations. In addition to this, they're also financially aligned to do this. There's lower credit risk associated with sustainable investments, and there's also also the sustainable funds are already outperforming non-sustainable funds. However, the biggest obstacle to direct more capital to sustainable investments is unreliable data. The data that the corporations need to report to prove their climate impact is sometimes missing, mostly inaccurate, and completely non-standardized. The investors, who are the primary source of capital for these investments, are having serious problems. They are hiring and paying teams of people to collect this data. However, most of the time, they actually cannot find the data and cannot meet their reporting obligations. They also, due to unreliable data, cannot meet their regulatory reporting obligations. They cannot detect greenwashing that may be occurring with the investments that they have made themselves. Of course, this leads to potential fines in the amount of millions of dollars and reputational risk, as we've recently seen on the news.
And the solution is Fidata, a digital platform where investment manager will find all their ESG impact data. On our platform, the investor will find high quality data, which is harmonized, and it will help them to compare different projects. Because of that, they will be able to do better reporting, and that means effectively avoiding these very high fines and greenwashing. And very importantly, they will be able to do all these by saving 70% of the time and effort compared to the manual work they are currently doing. So that's great news. But how do we do all that? The technology is based on my academic experience. I have worked in the past on AI and make sense of large, unreliable data distributed over and across the internet. We are going to use web scraping and natural language processing to collect and process data at scale. And as our database will become much bigger, our prediction ability will increase. In very short, Fidata will collect, correct, benchmark, and predict impact data at scale. So to do this activity, we need both technical and commercial ability. I am the technical brain, I have 20 years of experience in computing. Several of them worked as an academic. In the last 6 years, I have worked in technical startup as a CTO, and I have delivered and simplified complex problem into really interesting technology, right? On the commercial side, Fahir has over 13 years in banking and finance. I've worked both in UK and New York, and in the last 7 years, he has scaled SMEs in manufacturing. On our bigger team, Alberto is our first employee. He works with me in delivering demo to our clients, and we have 6 experts in ESG and financing. Rima and Michael have decades of experience with asset managers. They know what the clients need, and they have the network to help us. On the competition, we can divide it in 2 parts. Direct competitors that work with us on green bonds and green loan, or what we call generally project data, they tend to have a low level of digitalization. So that means that a lot of the processing, if any, it's done probably manually or semi-manually. None of them makes correction and benchmarking of the data. On the other side, companies who have a higher level of digitalization and they use sophisticated technology, they tend to work on a different problem, and it would be difficult for them to come and compete with us directly. So Fidata is an AI-based technology that will deliver correct and impact data at scale to asset managers.
And impact data is just the beginning for us. There are countless possibilities where our impact data can actually lead to different business opportunities, like project rating methodology, data verification, impact project database. The impact investing market is expected to grow to over $5 trillion in the next few years. Our goal is to become the predominant place and the authority for all impact data for the financial markets. So where are we now? We have raised £30,000 from an angel investor in addition to the £120,000 received from Carbon 13. And we've started developing our green bond and loan platform. We have also started developing our proof of concept for natural language processing algorithm and also received positive feedback on our platform and our solution features from the largest investment managers. We have also confirmation from 2 investment managers to work with us to refine our solution and our platform. So what are the next steps for us? We are looking to raise £250,000 for a minimum viable product, which will cater to the investment managers, and we will achieve this in the next 3 to 4 months. We will develop the minimum viable product to include purchasing of existing market impact data and also completion of automated data collection and data correction algorithms. We will begin pilots with mid-sized funds, which represent about 70% of the market, and we will then introduce data production capabilities to further entice larger size funds. So, as a result of our platform, investment managers will have access to high quality data, which will help them with peace of mind and confidence to actually direct more capital to net zero. And by doing this, we will help save the world 28 million metric tons of carbon emissions per year. Thank you so much for listening to us, and good afternoon.
Great, thank you for your presentation. It's such an important thing to take on to prevent greenwashing, so I appreciate all of your efforts there. My first question is around how you plan on driving a value proposition for your customers. You touched on some of the qualitative benefits, but like what exactly is the business case? Are you reducing costs? Are you driving, more top line for your customers for what they will pay you for these services?
So basically, as Maria mentioned, we are the easiest way to get into the customers that we're going to save them 70% of the time that they actually are using to collect the data. But also, in addition to that, we will be able to give them better data. So right now, 70% of the all ESG data that is given to these investment managers is estimated. So what we're trying to do is bringing all that information in front of them through a platform in one place where they will have access and also be able to actually see those numbers in a corrected way.
So I imagine that probably means with better data you might reduce their loan loss rates, which is a very economic value, and on the cost side, what are they even doing today to gather this data? Is it manually collected?
Yeah, so they're hiring teams of people to actually collect this data, and then they're struggling with all the different types of metrics that the data is reported with, and they're also struggling with whether the data is correct or not. So if they had actually ability to benchmark the data to other data sets and to other companies and other projects, that actually would make their lives much easier.
To add to that, an analyst typically reads a PDF report, then has to look at what data it is, then they put it in an Excel spreadsheet. There is a risk that there is a manual error. If the data is not very clear, for example, let's say a very simple example is the carbon factor, whereby you need to establish how much CO2 avoided as being derived from a renewable project. They would have to go and look at a database in a national place, make sure that the reporting period corresponds there is a temporal connection between the two. And I can continue on because, very often people who report, companies who report on green bonds, example of a manufacturing who did a small part in a wind farm, they report all the impact for the whole wind farm. So that is all analysis that an analyst needs to do. So we can effectively, we are able to find ways to automatize some of those corrections, and definitely a way to collect all the data and put it and put it not only in our platform, but make it available through API and other means directly to Excel spreadsheet. So if we think about a user journey, the analyst, rather than spending 5 days having to collect and correct this data, when they can, because we will do certain things a bit better, they will simply able to click on our platform, click on Excel spreadsheet, download the Excel spreadsheet, or even better, connect it to an API and connect our system to their reporting system as well. So this is really what we are going to deliver.
Great. And then one more question around just what is your key differentiator? There's a lot of companies out there purportedly trying to use data to improve reporting in various ways in the climate space. So what's your unfair advantage, and how do you plan on using that to create a moat?
Yeah, I think the most important differentiation factor for us is we're focusing on project level data rather than company level data. So what we mean by project level data is that we're looking into positive impact projects where companies are actually investing in new projects to make positive impact to the world, like saving certain carbon emissions or actually conserving more water. And there are not, as far as we know, there's not a company who does actually go after this data and make sure that this data is correct. So that's our biggest differentiation factor, and we will, at the end of the day, we'll be able to add projects up to give more meaningful data to the investors.
Yes, a project comes out of, for example, loans. You give a loan for producing a solar factory, or you issue a green bonds to produce either a solar factory or wind factories or a new fleet of cars. And the reason why they are easier to benchmark is because they are very clearly defined, and we are able to understand what are the various components in each project and how they contribute to make reduction into the climate, to the metric of the climate space. But if you look at the company data, that is very complex. It includes people, operation, project, and so on and so forth, and there is a lot of estimation there. So that's really the main difference. I would like to add that this particular space is at the moment overlooked because it is a fertile place for a startup to go. It is overlooked but bound to grow exponentially. So we want to be the first to enter into the space, do a great job, and then kind of scale with the market.
Great. That's perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.